We have Professor X. He is getting changed to 5-1. So how significant is this? I think it's a pretty big deal. I mean, before he was just a 5-3. He could carry a little bit of weight. His 3 was measurable. I mean, it made a difference. 5-1 makes him pretty much, he relies on everything else that's already there to be locked, to be useful. So he can still jump in on an empty spot and, of course, lock it down, but it takes very little effort to steal Professor X's place, right? So if you're playing Professor X, a lot of people are playing, was it Sharky? What's his name? What's his name? I don't. Why am I not thinking of? Ye, I don't know why I can't remember. He's let's see. There he is, Jeff. Jeff Sharky. I knew it wasn't Sharky, but whatever. So Jeff is a staple for a lot of Professor X. It's a way to add 3 at a later time if you need it. He's cheap to get in play. He can jump through any spot. There's no restrictions on him. So he's a staple. But now you've only got 4 on Professor X's spot. Now you really need those bumps that come along with things like Miss Marvel. Now apparently there's a card down the road that's a weaker version of Miss Marvel, but that's coming too. But ultimately, you've got options that are a little bit less powerful now. So a lot of people are complaining about how strong Professor X was. He's annoying. I don't play Professor X decks very often. I don't even know if I have Professor X in any of my decks. I like the premise. I like to build decks that I feel, although they're still strategically similar to some other decks, I feel are a little bit different. So it's not really it'll affect me more in what I see in the world. But yeah, he's gone from a 5-3 to 5-1. We'll see how that affects anything. Okay, so the next one is another new card, actually. Werewolf by Night's only been around for a month? Not very long. Maybe 2 tops. I don't even think it hasn't been 2 months. It's something in the middle. But Werewolf by Night, I actually don't own him. Where is he? Why aren't I seeing all the cards? No. Why am I not seeing all the cards? I have to go out. Okay, I don't know why I'm not seeing all the cards. All right, well, for some reason I have him. Oh, okay, never mind. Ignore me. Okay, here he is, Werewolf by Night. Okay, after you play him, he moves around, gets +2, but his big change, they just made him more expensive. And I believe they even gave him a bump in power. Yeah, he was a 3-3, now he's a 4-4. So what does this mean? You're not going to see him in Silver Surfer decks anymore. He has no play there. So there were Surfer decks that I saw him come up with. He's an extra bump, of power. But now he's moved on to the 4-4 realm. I think he's going to be a lot less common at 4-4. You've got to reduce his cost. You got to come up with ways to get him in early if you want to move him around a lot. He's a little bit more work. He'll probably show up less. I have a feeling we're going to see less of Werewolf by Night in the coming metas. But for now, we'll see. This is kind of a wait and see. I don't know. I don't own Werewolf, as you can see, my black and white image. But I think he's got potential for this. But I think they nerfed him. This is, it's always a question, what's a nerf, right? So, I mean, sometimes they think, hey, we're buffing him up by making him cheaper. That doesn't always work. Because if you're playing him in say, for example, let's talk about the next guy. Oh, no, it's Black Widow. All right, well, we'll talk about Black Widow. And we'll talk a little bit later. But I'm just saying, sometimes making things cheaper is a nerf, even though they call it a buff. Sometimes usually making them more expensive is a nerf. That's almost always the case. Unless you're moving to a 3. Because again, there's a lot of decks that rely on the cost of 3. Because Surfer. So you're giving options to surfers by giving things to 3. There's not a lot of things that rely on cost other than surfer decks, right? I mean, here 1 cost cards maybe. There's 1 cost card boosts and there's 3 cost card boosts. There aren't any 2 cost card or 4 cost card boosts. So there's very few decks that are built around those. There are highest power, and then you have to fiddle with things like Cerebro and stuff like that to try to get those to work. But that's not the same. It's not affected by that. You may or may not have cards that change, that might jump into a Cerebro deck as a result of, but you're not going to see Werewolf by Night in a Cerebro deck because it's too flaky and you have to be really careful about how big he gets or whatever. So that can be challenging. But anyway, next, Black Widow. Okay, so Black Widow, I don't know if this is a nerf or a buff. Okay, so this one is it makes her into 3/3, right? So now she's more expensive and she's stronger. But she's a 3 now. So she's a decent strength. 3/3 is not terrible for a card that can literally give your opponent a -1 and stop them. You basically take away one of the cards they get a draw. So yes, less playable in the fact that you can't just keep playing it on people, right? I mean, it's harder to get a 3 cost card down multiple times. I mean, you might get it down twice, but it's going to take more to do it, right? So if you play it with Beast and you pick her up, put her down, she's cheaper, but she's still a 2. So a 1 is easy. You just throw them down and keep messing with people because it's just an extra card, especially if you're playing cheap deck. But as a 3, 2s become a little bit more harder to get, and she's still a 3, so you have to play her on turn 3. Beast on turn 4. You might get her down on turn 5. Putting her on 6 doesn't matter. So unless you can figure out a way to get her down on turn 2, which is near impossible. There's not a lot of things that are going to get a 3 down in turn 2. There's territories that can do it, but you can't plan on those. So ultimately, Black Widow might see some play though in 3 cost decks. Again, Surfer. I mean, you get a kind of strangle your opponent a little bit, potentially giving them an extra -1 into play. So if you play her on turn 3, your opponent effectively turns her into a 3/4. A 3/4 is pretty good because they have to put that -1 down unless they don't care, unless they already have the perfect hand and they're just going to hold it. I've done that, but it's not always the case, and it's usually you have to dump Black Widow. Sometimes Black Widow, I have noticed that this is a whole nother thing about Black Widow, is her Widow's Bite can work against her if she's got the wrong deck going. It's like, discard this card to get +2 energy. Well, shoot, +2 energy for free. Thank you, Black Widow. So you blocked my card, but now I can play a bigger card that I wouldn't have played before, and I'll just draw on the next turn. But anyway, I think she's going to see some more play in different styles of deck. She might stick around in those decks that like to lock you down because Darkhawk needs a card like Black Widow to kind of slow down your development, so it's not bad. Darkhawk is going to take advantage of Black Widow. Also, you might see Black Widow played with the new changes to a card I keep wanting to bring up, but I can't because it's down the list. We'll get there. Martyr. I don't own Martyr. I don't think Martyr is right now, Martyr's not in the conversation. I mean, the meta conversation. She's a 1/5 now, though. And this will probably put her in the conversation. Because I think now Martyr will displace Titania. Because she takes away the risk of losing her. Right? I mean, Titania could end up helping your opponent. There's all this gambling. Should I put a card down? Should I not put a card down? You're strategizing. You really ought to overthink just keeping Titania on your side of the board. Okay, so Martyr's going to try to lose you the game, but she's a 1/5. She's going to have a hard time losing you the game. A 1/5 is a very good, powerful card that it's rare that you need 5. I mean, that 5 won't help you in another location enough to win. I mean, being close in territories. Now, granted, she'll stay in the same place. I mean, I don't know how bad that loses you the game is, but my thought is she keeps 5 on your side of the board. So the problem is, if here's the deal, if your opponent plays like a blob in an area and just blows away one of your territories, I mean, you just can't win that territory and you want to win one of the other two, Martyr's not going to be your friend. Martyr's going to go over there and basically nullify her power because she's going to be sitting there. But consider this. It's better than not playing a card on turn 1. So think of it as it's 1/5 in your favor. If you get to use it for helping you win, great. If you don't, it ends up over there. It was still a card you got to play on turn 1 that you didn't get to play otherwise. So take it or leave it. I think Martyr's going to see a lot more play now. That's actually really good. I think Titania is going to lose her job. So Titania doesn't get played a lot. But where it is played, I think they're going to have to turn Titania into a 1/6 to give... I mean, because it doesn't make sense to have a card that you can risk losing. You're better off having a card that you can only keep. The death of either one by Killmonger or something is, you know, it's a risk, but she's a lot more usable. You can't lose her, short of some territory that does it. But Martyr's a good card now. I think she's actually usable. She's better than Titania, just for that reason alone. All right, let's go see the next card. Next card, please. Viper. A lot of long-winded explanation for Viper, but ultimately they gave her a bump in power. She was a 2/3. She's a 3/4 now. Oh, they gave her a little bit more expense, so she's not going to be one of those where somebody throws... So now, keep in mind, what happens is if you get them, you draw Red Hood and Viper on the same turn. So you got Red Hood, which was what everybody plays, right? They all play. I mean, Red Hood. Do I not have Red Hood? Where's Red Hood? I have Red Hood. Where the heck? I know I have Red Hood. Is it not Red Hood? Maybe I'm not thinking of the right name. What? Okay, I'm confused. All right, let's just go. Let's go here. Because 4 is Red Hood. Maybe... All right, let's sort by power. Because he's going to be... There it is. Oh, the Hood. Sorry. The Hood. Add a demon to your hand. The Hood. What happened is people would play him on turn 1 and Viper on turn 2. A lot of people don't have 1 and 2 cost cards, very many in their deck. So oftentimes you have no way to stop Viper from doing what she does. You can't counter it. You can't put down Cosmo. You can't... you know, block this happening. It's hard to block anyway. But like, say for example, you could play Polaris and move it somewhere else. I mean, you have a lot more options. You know, Juggernaut, Polaris, ways to keep Viper from coming down on turn 3 and giving you the Hood. When she was a turn 2, a lot of the cards that could stop her weren't accessible yet. Now you got a lot of cards that can block her and keep the Hood on their side of the board. Now, granted, they're all playing Annihilus now. all the Viper decks are playing Annihilus now. But hey, that's one more card you don't have that they have to fiddle with. And then you can block it. It's better on theirs. It's better they have to kill it with Annihilus than automatically getting to be on your side of the board. Okay. Next. Here we go. So Viper, that's Viper. Okay, so we got Ronan. They made Ronan a little better. I always thought Ronan was a little underpowered, and even they said here, oh, we've been talking about for months giving him a little power, but we've been slow because they thought Loki was going to be a big deal. Loki is a big deal, and Loki's a pain in the rear. But Ronan the Accuser's now 5/5. So now he gets a little bit of a buff. He'll be more competitive with a lot of decks, I think. For one, he works great against Devil Dinosaur. I mean, actually, he's bigger than he could be better than Devil Dinosaur, right? So they play Devil Dinosaur, you play Ronan, you win because you're gonna have a 5/5. He's gonna have 5/3. Say thank you, sir. You're gonna have a bigger guy. But if you're not playing against Devil Dinosaur, then you got to play the cards that are going to buff them up. So this is going to keep this will keep Black Widow in the conversation because obviously you're doing things to try to keep their deck full of cards, not making it easy. So you're just trying to plug up their deck. I had a deck that used Darkhawk and Ronan, and it worked pretty good. And now Ronan's even better. So maybe I may have to give that deck another look. Wouldn't mind trying it. There's a lot of big card decks out there, though. Blob now has made big cards a thing. So Ronan might not be big enough to go up against those guys, but we'll see. All right, here's the one I keep referring back to, Maximus. Maximus, since almost the beginning of Silver Surfer, has been a staple in Silver Surfer decks. Then came Ronan. Or not Ronan, the Gladiator. The Gladiator came in and started making people think, hey, I don't have to give them cards. In fact, I can potentially take one away from them. But Maximus, everybody said, well, he's still a 3/7, and they have to play the card. So if I don't accidentally pull in a monster card, right? I don't pull in a 10, 12, 15, 20, whatever. There's no risk of that, which can happen with Gladiator. And even more so nowadays that Blob's around, and all those decks that are using Blob have a bunch of cards in them that are big, because this way Blob comes down and he's 1,000, whatever he is. I've seen him get up to 60 or 60 some, I think is about the most I've ever seen him get to. Minus, whatever every power booster things that might come up in territories. But in general, he's pretty massive, right? So, Gladiator was a risk because, hey, do I play it? Because there's too many of these big cards out there. I'm going to pull one of those monsters in and they're just going to be a monster card against me. But so people stuck with Maximus even though you were giving them cards, which can weaken Blob too because you're giving them cards, right? So it's not in the deck, and Blob, they may have all these big cards, but now they're all in their hands, making Blob a little less, You know what they need to do is come out with a card that says, has all the power of the cards in your opponent's hand. Well, I guess that would actually probably break Ronan. Huh? Ronan wouldn't have, because Ronan just gets +2 for every card in their hand. And that's already pretty good. Probably averages out similarly, but anyway, they probably thought that was too strong because people with all their giant card decks. Half the power of all the cards in your opponent's hand might be good. Anyway, Gladiator. So on top of the fact that they have taken Maximus and made him worthless in a Silver Surfer deck, see, this they called a buff. We're delivering a buff to Maximus. That is a really good card. There's not very many 2-cost. Let's go look at 2-cost cards. And then we'll sort by power. Let's see the biggest 2-cost cards. Maximus is number 2 now. Only Ebony Maw is bigger of the 1s and 2s. Only Ebony Maw is bigger. And Ebony Maw restricts you, so you got to figure out a way to shut it down. A lot of people were playing Silk because it was a good 2/5, no real risk. Lizard was a 2/5 that you almost never see anymore. They really broke Lizard. I know this is totally off chart, but -4. It was just too risky. I think you don't see Lizard anymore because they totally broke him. When it was -3, it was people would, deal with it, but you rarely see Lizard anymore. Because why? I mean, you have Silk. Doesn't lose any power. Yeah, she moves around wherever she lands. Here we go. Who knows? But ultimately, why play Lizard? There's no risk of losing Silk's power. So by bringing, they need to bring Lizard up to a 6, or heck, even a 7. You know, make the gamble of keeping him worth it. If you bring Lizard up to a 2-7 and say maybe loses 5, he drops to a 2-2 if he gets filled up. But now there's a big guy with potential. He competes against Ebony Maw in that your opponent has to fill that spot to prevent you from having 7. But it's a playable card then. 6 maybe, but heck, you're just kind of back and forth between whether or not Maximus or Lizard. Which one do you want? Give him 2 cards. Don't give him 2 cards, but potentially you end up losing your power. So I don't know. But right now, as Lizard is, they've killed Lizard. Lizard's toast. With Silk and Maximus, yeah, there's no reason to play Lizard. Okay. If they boost Lizard's power, maybe he'll be good. Don't turn him into a 3, please. Leave him at 2. That's his whole thing. But you got to add some power. And now they've made Gladiator even stronger. So he's still a 3 cost, but he's now a 3/8. 3/8 that's good. A 3/8 is awesome. I mean, I think that might be the strongest 3-cost card. Anybody bigger? Nope. Of all 1 through 3s, Gladiator is now officially the strongest card in all the 1 through 3s. Now, Daken can be just as strong if you're able to kill the if you're able to use your Muramasa, destroy your Muramasa. But beyond that, most guys aren't that great. I mean, if you do some math and some odd things, I mean, like Groot gets what, +2? 3/6. Not that big. Thor can be a 3/10, potentially the biggest of the bunch. But again, there's work. Not much work. You do have to get that card out of your deck somehow, but people find ways. You play Lady Thor and she pulls it in for you. So Thor is probably a bigger card, but less work. You don't have to worry about what it's doing, how hard it's going to be to get it into play. Plus Muramasa is, any damage, anything that destroys it gets it to you. That's not the case with Mjolnir. Mjolnir has to be played. Yes, it's 0, but it has to be played. Okay, so on to the next thing. So Gladiator. I think Gladiator is going to be good. I'm certainly not taking out any deck that has it, and I may even have to move him into something. Punisher is the final update for this reset. Punisher. Wait, no? There's only one N in Punisher? I don't have any cool cards versions of him. I mean, he's kind of cool in his base form, but okay, so there's Punisher. What do I think of this one? They made him a 3/3. What was he before? A 3/1. So now he's potentially a 3/7. It's not quite as strong as Gladiator, and a lot harder to accomplish because now you need your opponent to cooperate. So you got to play him at the right time. But he's potentially more playable. I used to play him. I think ultimately when it comes down to it, it's like how hard is it going to be to get these take advantage of their power? Because when you're doing things like Silver Surfer, the goal is, maximize, get the most power down you can before Silver Surfer comes in and adds 2 more to everybody, right? So you want to say, okay, well, if this guy's going to be, potentially 7, and this guy's going to be potentially 8, and this guy's going to be potentially 10, a lot of potentialies don't always add up. So you need to make sure that you get those cards down, that the stuff comes up that you expect, and ultimately, you got to figure if you can optimize your deck enough to get those kind of plays. So yeah, I think going from a 3/2 to a 3/3 is a pretty minor jump, but still in one's head, 3/7 potential is better than 3/6. I mean, you're thinking about where he could go. Honestly, I'd rather him be like a 2 and then just change it to +2 for each card there. I mean, that gives him 8. Could make him a 3/9, right? No, 8. Or even to have him be a 3/1. So he could potentially reach 3/9. But I'd rather him go down to a 3/1 and get +2 for every card there. Because he doesn't, it's ongoing +1 for each card there, but you can't get more than 8, right? I mean, that's all he gets. So I think it'd be better if he could go up to 9. Right now, 7. No. 3, 4, 7, yeah. So 7's better than 6, but I think getting 4 cards into a place is going up to 9 is better. I mean, look, look at for him to reach full power, he's a 3-cost card that can go up to 6, but he has numbers in the middle. So he's probably going to be at least a 4 because you're probably not going to put him down anywhere odd. But if you think about it, there's 2-cost cards that can be 3/7, and there's even 2-cost cards that can be 3/10 if you're looking at Globular, whatever the heck her name is. I don't know, mind blank. The old mind blank. Where is... I have to... where is she? She is a 2. I think she's a 2/2. There's a lot of 2/2s, aren't there? Okay, I know she's a 2-cost. What am I doing wrong here? Because I know she goes up to... Oh, is she a 2/4? Oh, maybe she's a 2/4. Okay. I don't know where she is. I don't know what she is. I know she's a 2-cost, but I don't know where she went. Dang it. What's 2? I feel like I'm missing stuff. The thing is, I only have 1. Where? Oh, Mojo. Gosh, I have 1. Okay, so it is a 2/2. So Mojo can be a 2/8. So if there's 4 cards there, well, I guess you can be 2/8, but it is more work. You have to get 4 there yourself. So, yeah, I guess. She can be bigger as a 2-cost, but she does take a fair bit more work. You have to get 4 there yourself. They have to get 4 there to help you out. And opponents will avoid that last card just to stop Mojo from getting her bump. Where it's you can't fully avoid. You can't fully, for a chance to win either a battle pass, a bundle from the shop. You must guess it. Yeah, are you legit? 73. I don't know. I can't help but think that's kind of funny. Anyway, I'm going to, I guess that's it. I've talked about them all. I do think that he's a little bit more playable. He will find his way into more decks. Punisher is all the way up to, potentially an 8, 7. But 3/7, it's not as good as 3/8 like Gladiator. Well, thanks anyway. Appreciate it. We'll have to see how these play out. I think they will affect some of my decks. I will make some changes, get some cards into play because of these changes. But how much? Will I try a whole new deck? Will I tweak current deck? I don't know. We will have to make that decision sometime in the future. But there you go. There's December 21st. Balance updates all discussed in hopefully I gave you some ideas how to use them. Hopefully I gave you some things to think about. Maybe next time, we'll play against each other. You have a good one. Take it easy.